Yes, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're watching us from. My name is David Bura, and I welcome you to Uganda at Crossroads. Thank you for always watching Campfire TV, all our programs in general. We really greatly appreciate. Now, Uganda at Crossroads will always, again, discuss things that happen in Uganda on a weekly basis, but also we look into the major political stories that happen. This week, we are going to let you know that Makerere University's strikes are still going on, and they've been on and off. The president coming out to say, hey, the military should be out of that place. The arrest of the military commander who led the forces that raid the university halls. Remember that night? Young people were beaten. That's the responsibility of the government and other people. But that's what we have to talk about. You also remember the president has now again started strategizing by involving musicians into the politics, just as like they are citizens, so they have the right to participate in politics. But we cannot also forget when the first lady of the country, that was as a Minister of Education and Sports, comes out in her official statement to say that corruption and opposition is responsible for the strikes at Makerere University. Those are the things that we're going to be discussing on some today. In the house, I have Sarah Joy Bakanasa, I have Professor Juan Canceleko, who teaches at the State University of New York, and Dennis Seriao, who is standing as a member of Parliament come 2021, and also he has stood before. So we're yet to know, did he win last time or he didn't? Is the professor still well knowledgeable about the politics of Uganda now that he's been in the United States for a long period of time? We're going to know all that today. My name is David Uhura. Let me go and meet these guys. Sir, I want to thank you for, again, joining me. You're always here with me, so I appreciate that. Professor Nsereko, I would like to go by that.
Thank you.
Professor Nsereko, thank you for joining me today. Dennis, thank you for joining me again. Guys, this week has been really interesting to me, politically and, of course, my personal life. So I always ask people how their week was on Uganda at Crossroads before we dig deep into the politics and economy of Uganda. Let me start with the lady again. Ladies always disagree with me. They say, hey, you don't want to involve us first. Ladies first. Sarah, how was your week?
It's been an interesting week. A lot has happened. A lot that is interesting, shocking. Too much has happened within the week.
Too much has happened within the week. Let me go straight to Professor. Your week, did you have any good meal or that made it interesting?
Well, wonderful week that I'm still alive. Wonderful week that there are people who are standing up for what is right. Painful week when you consider the images coming out of Uganda.
Painful week. Dennis, I can't jump.
Always a good week here, but a bad week home. Ever. There is nothing good coming from where we come from. So whether you're happy here, but at the same time you're not happy home. So I cannot say it's 100% a good weekend. It's just 50-50.
Well, what's interesting is that you were standing as a member of Parliament and you stood before.
Yes,
there is a reason why I want to start with you. Parliament is a confused world in Uganda. Of course, it represents everything, but when you look at what happens in the Parliament, people fighting, beating each other, throwing microphones everywhere, and you want to go into that office again. I don't know what pushes you to go into that.
Literally, we have to look at the general knowledge of what representation means. One, it is supposed to be working for the people. But the challenge we have there is that this government does not want any arrangement in that format to operate well. So they will make sure that they do everything possible to frustrate it. Members of Parliament are not even supposed to fight, neither do they want to fight, but the condition under which they operate make them to fight. If they were not stormed by the security operative that time, they were not going to break those chairs or stamp anyone. There was going to be totally nothing. But the security overrides the way they operate. Of course, if you come with violence, what do you expect? You expect violence in return. So that's what happened.
All right, so let me go to Professor Nsereko. You are a veteran in journalism. And the way you see what is happening in Uganda with the journalists being arrested every now and then, does that represent the future, or it's just people who are just selfish, according to you?
There is a very selfish, callous regime in power in Uganda that has chosen to throw away all the fundamental human rights. And journalists, being the eye of the public, this is the fourth estate, they are with fundamental risks. They are revealing some of these atrocities, and I say some of the atrocities, because the media in Uganda, the level of self-censorship in Uganda is so deep and so disappointing, because the regime visits abuse to the practitioners of this noble profession. So, is this the future? No, this is not the future. This is actually the birth pangs of a new dispensation. We might be suffering tremendously today, but the best days for Uganda are actually in the future. The media will definitely be free, the people will be free, and they will enjoy their fundamental rights. We have a regime that is very tactical, very brilliant in what they do. They have the carrot in one hand and the stick in the other hand. They come to you with the dollars if you are willing to be bought like a butcherman and the others, or you get abused like a Spiria and the others who have been abused in the previous week. So that's the regime we are dealing with. You asked my friend here the question of fighting in parliament, which shows you how dangerous this Museveni regime is. It tactfully dressed people in suits with neckties, and they enter the parliament. Now, when you see people beating up members of parliament, you think it's the members of parliament who are fighting. Yet it's the soldiers beating up members of parliament. The guy who spins on the top of the desk he's a soldier. He's not a member of parliament. But you saw CBS News in New York, when they were broadcasting it, they said, look at that member of parliament.
I thought he was Dennis. So, so let me thank you, Professor. Let me bring in Sarah, and we go straight away to the key issue that is happening in Uganda. The Minister of Sports and Education, who happens to be the first lady of the country, came out recently last week, and we also reported this as Campfire TV, saying it's corruption and the opposition that are pushing all the strikes that happened at Makerere University. You disagreed with that strongly. Why did you disagree with what the minister, who happens to be the mother to many Ugandans, said?
You know, it is really absurd that the minister, who also happens to be the wife to the president, and at the same time, it is so absurd that none of her children ever went through Makerere, because her daughter studied from Namagunga. After Namagunga, all of them studied from abroad. So literally, she doesn't understand what she's talking about. And she went to Makerere University. She studied by proxy. She never stepped in any of the classes at Makerere University. If you talk of the people, if you talk to anyone who happened to be at Makerere University the year she graduated, Janet Museveni has never been to any of the classes at Makerere University, yet she graduated with a degree in education. And at the same time, before you graduate as teachers, you go out and do the teaching practice before even you graduate. I want to know, and I'm still asking anyone who knows where she did a teaching practice from. She got her degree by proxy, so she's not even the right person to be a minister representing such a big, entity, institution like education. Because she doesn't know what she's talking about. Because who is corrupt? Who is she talking about as corrupt? Because the issue is right here. And I saw one of the comparisons she put up on social media was to compare a private university, that is UCU, with Makerere University. And the minister is forgetting one thing. UCU is a private university, completely, its entity is private, whereby by the time parents take their children right there, they know they're paying for in a private university. So a private university, don't expect it to have the same fee structure as a government university. Makerere University is a government-funded university. And any increment you put up on private students, because the increment is affecting the private students who are paying for the needs of the government students. And why you're having such issues happening, because even in a private, a government-funded university, you would expect to be finding fair tuition fees for even private university, for private universities studying in a government-funded university, if the government was funding the university the right way it's supposed to be funded. I think the issue of the students, they are right, because you do an increment of 15% on a private student who is studying with a government student, and they are taught by the same lecturers. But the issue we have at Makerere University, they are even deeper than, you know, having students demonstrate and having all that. Lecturers of Makerere University for the last 5+ years have been crying for an increment in their salaries. Nothing has been done. So the 15% increment, where does this money go? What is it going to do? Because before you do any increment, you need to explain to the students what are you going to use the money for before you put it up there. So what is the money going to do? This is a government-funded university where government is responsible for majority of the students that are coming in, for taking care of the university, for taking care of the teaching staff and maybe the non-teaching staff. Those are things that are supposed to be done by the university. Then having private students at Makerere University helps to supplement. And in fact, one of the things I keep asking myself, where does the money from private students go? Because if teachers at this time are demanding for an increment in their salaries, why can't we use the money from private students to pay for that gap the teachers are asking for? For as a minister, first of all, Madam Janet Museveni doesn't have any moral authority to speak because even her coming out to speak, it was really confusing. I was trying to get a point. Where is the corruption? I couldn't find it. Where is it coming from? I couldn't get it. At the same time, if you're saying opposition, these are parents. So you're trying to tell me every private child who is at Makerere University, the parents are opposition supporters wherever they are.
Let me put it how the minister put it, and I will come to Professor Sergey. She said, I have learned with dismay. She said, and I quote, I have learned with dismay that some of the people involved in this demonstration are non students from Makerere University or any other university for that matter. They are people who have made it their way of life to be paid to join any riot, wherever it's happening. Apparently, the political position in the country who are well-funded, she puts it in the strong quotes, somehow by unknown sources, whenever they believe they see a viable opportunity. So, what does that tell you when the minister clearly states how and the people who are responsible for all these riots at Makerere University?
You see, I used to think that bankruptcy only relates to financial disabilities. But I think there is also intellectual bankruptcy and moral bankruptcy, which is largely awash in Uganda. When somebody, let's for a moment believe her, just for a second, believe her, that people are being hired to go and disrupt Makerere University from outside. That, at the surface of it, you think it's a simple statement. But as a minister who's been around with your husband for 35 years, it means that there is abject poverty in the country which forces somebody to go and do such stupid things. Now, that's if we want to believe her. But let's retreat.
So your opposition disagree with her?
Yes. I totally disagree. These are lies. Because what Museveni has done, what they imagine from the first family, the ruling Kaba, what they are imagining is what they are doing. And they think the opposition is doing the same. They go out and hire goons and train them and give them sticks to beat up people in the streets in Kampala. And Janet Museveni thinks this is the same thing is happening. Because as Sarah Joy said a minute ago, she could pay someone to sit her papers and get a university degree. She thinks the same thing is very easy to do by the general public. No, this is not the issue. The issue is that the students are aggrieved. Of the people that they arrested and took to Wandegea police station, there's 37 individuals. Let the police give me one person who wasn't a student at Makerere. They were all students at Makerere.
Exactly.
Okay. The girls that they took out of the dormitories, they broke doors and took these girls out of the dormitories, took them to some nasty places and abused them. These were all registered students who had paid or who are trying to pay tuition.
Well, one may say maybe they're having NASA-made IDs.
No, but the question you would ask, let me jump in a little bit. The number of students that came out to be, they put up a list of students to be suspended. If they were outsiders, then you wouldn't have students suspended because students would be clean. The list of the students to be suspended, where did it come from? These are real students of Makerere University. Because if there were goons that were hired from outside, then why were they breaking down Mary Stewart? What were they doing in Lumumba? Because you saw UPDF breaking down. It was so absurd, you saw the disabled being brutalized by the same police. Because if there were goons, and if there were goons and really hired goons, after being involved in the riot, they would go back wherever they are coming from. Why are they in the university halls at night? What were they doing there?
All right, Professor is finished. Yeah.
So, because this is where we are. We are now in the third week of the riots at Makerere.
Right.
So outsiders are still at Makerere.
Are affected because they pay. Some of them pay their tuition. They're supposed to be in class.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening.
My question to Janet, she behaves so much like the wife of King Louis. Why do we still have these riots going on? We still have goons on campus?
They should parade them before court.
Okay, they should parade them before court, charge them with trespass, and then we will deal with it from that perspective. Other than coming and making a blanket statement, misleading, peddling all these lies. I really, as a Christian, I feel very much offended that this woman, with all the inanity she's spewing out, quotes the Bible and uses it to license her lies.
Because
it's very unfortunate.
She calls herself a mother, and she was very clear. Those who call her mom, she was very clear.
Maybe she was only addressing those, and she wasn't addressing the entire country.
All right, so Minister, I want to bring you in.
Yeah.
Now, the minister was also clear, and she said, and I quote, "What is most disheartening is that some of the students at the forefront of these dubious demonstrations at Makerere University are the privileged ones. For example, many of these students are sponsored by government, MasterCard Foundation, State House, while others are beneficiaries of higher education students' loan scheme." Now, you are soon standing as a member of parliament, and you have higher chances of winning. I understand it's a tight race in that area, but what would you do? Want to do the same just as the minister did or even said regarding these people who are sponsored by the government and demonstrating against their main sponsors?
First of all, you have to understand that the minister is protecting their kingdom. Our country has become a monarchy, so they don't want it to slip out of their hands. So she's doing everything possible to make sure no one tampers with their kingdom, either even gets closer to it. When you're trying to say that those students are sponsored, I disagree. Most students that are sponsored from there come from the rich family, not the privileged. There's a difference between those ones being highly rich and the privileged. My son, I can pay for him school fees there, right? But the people who are paying real tuition come from the poor families. Exactly. Because these ones that are rich already went on scholarship, okay? Because they studied from Namagunga, Budo, Gayaza, all those very big schools. So they go to Makerere free of charge, paid for by our taxes. Then the ones that are paying this tuition, the real ones, come from those villages of Bulamburi, those deep villages of Osoroti, villages in very far east, and the west and the south, depending on where they come from. So I am unhappy that the 15% increment is done on these people who cannot afford. In fact, for me, in terms of district quarter and all this nonsense of government sponsorship, I would say, as long as you come from a well-to-do family, you're not going to get any sponsorship. Let's sponsor those ones even if they cannot get the marks that are necessary. But those ones from far villages should benefit rather than the rich. Because it gets to nonsense if we are funding the people who can afford.
And for the simple use of common sense, if from the statement of the minister, if the children that are privileged are the one demonstrating, yet they are on government sponsorship, why would I be on government sponsorship? I pay nothing. Why would I be involved in getting dirty and being tear gassed? She did not use common sense there. Because why would I be on government sponsorship? I get everything free. All I need to do is carry myself to university. Why would I be demonstrating over 15% that does not apply to me? What is in it for me that I would even bother to get engaged? That tells you the children, the students that are demonstrating are the ones that are feeling the pinch of the 15%. They are the children, they are the students that come from poor families where their parents cannot even afford to pay the 500, 600,000 increment onto that tuition.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
On that very topic, I want to say this. Now, I kind of understand why the hospitals in Uganda are dilapidated, that public service is inaccessible to the common, to the general citizen. Because in that statement, the Vice Chancellor of Makerere and that woman from Chiruhura, Janet they are implying that if the problem does not apply to you directly, if you can get on a plane and go and get treatment in German, you don't have to care about what's happening.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they are saying. That if you are not part of the people who are going to be paying 15% increment, you shouldn't care. You live in your comfort zone, let the others suffer. That tells you the character, the core character of the people in power in Uganda. How disingenuous they are.
Disconnected.
They are so disconnected from the general public. But you see, we don't study these people. And this is why I encourage Ugandans. When Museveni writes a book, please read it. When Janet writes a book, please read it. Because it will reveal to you what these people are. Go and read Janet Museveni's autobiography. On page 43, she writes it there. That one of the reasons why she admired Museveni is because Museveni stole milk.
Yeah. He was a thief.
Okay. So these are the kind of people we have in office. We need to be very much worried.
David, I needed to finish.
Right.
That seriously, what this government should have done after the student having the first day of strike. Of course, Makerere from time immemorial is an area where political knowledge continues developing day by day.
Yeah.
So anything that comes through their ears which is not sweet, they will definitely go to riot. And if you joke around with it, it can end up into a whole country thing and riots everywhere and probably toppling your government. So they are trying to intimidate the students that should you try this, we are not going to allow, we are going to thump you down. If you can die, you will die. If you will survive, you will survive. So that tells us that, and the Makerere students, that if such a thing happens next time, what should they do? As they're already claiming that the politicians are there. There is no politician who was arrested and paraded before the cameras. That we got this person from Lumumba. It's not there. It's just baseless. They're trying to cook up ideas to defame the opposition, which we shall not accept.
If somebody says, now I'm going to give it this as an open discussion. If somebody says that, especially you guys who are in opposition and those students at Makerere University are hooligans, basing on them attacking the former good president, saying that he was responsible for this 15% increment. Doesn't it make sense for somebody to say that opposition and those at Makerere University are hooligans?
I don't think so. They are putting it in a context which is not understandable to me. What people should do, what Makerere students should learn is that they should first stop accusing each other when they're in struggles like this. Because going to attack the older guild president as, putting fire or making sure that the 15% was put in place, those increments are usually decided by a board. A board sits down and finds out what they have to do to make sure the tuition goes high. I also have to accept that, of course, at some point the tuition can be increased, but under what context? That's the most important thing. Makerere just wakes up in the morning and there is a gazette tomorrow, tuition has been increased by 15%. I am in year 1 doing one course. When I jump into year 2, they increase it. When I jump into year 3, they're increasing it on the same person. Why don't they only increase for the other person who is coming the first year, not me who is a continuous student? So that is making the continuing students face challenges. That I am doing that same course, I have not changed, but the salary is being increased every year. So it becomes more and more, and it's unbearable to pay.
And you see, with Makerere University students, you see, Janet Museveni, I don't blame her, she had to say that, because if you look at the history of Makerere University, there is so much. They've been at the pivot of some of either political changes within Uganda, and some of the students, really some of the demonstrations have really gone viral. You've had a number of times Makerere University was shut down. I remember the times of the likes of Dongoto. I remember there's a time when there was killings within Makerere University. Students carried a coffin to Parliament. A lot has been happening, but again, these students are mature enough. They are elites who are going to defend themselves in terms of things like that when they happen. Because going back to the minister, I expected a very better explanation. Her being a mother and being the mother of the nation, she would have maybe, why didn't she sit down with the students? Because the students, what they're doing right now, they're not hearing what the students are saying. The students are crying and saying the 15% you're increasing on our tuition is too much. We come from poor families. We are even struggling to pay what is already, you know, what is already at stake, and you're increasing the 15%. Our parents are peasants, they're farmers, they're struggling to make ends meet. We cannot. She's not listening. She's not listening, but all what she had to run out with is to blame corruption. And I tried to link corruption with what is happening at Makerere University. I tried to find the dominant factor that brings the two together. She's using words like corruption. She's using the words like opposition. This has nothing to do with opposition, because some of the kids that are studying at Makerere University, their parents could be poor people who are in the villages who are NRM supporters. But you see, these guys are so detached from what is happening from the common man that they don't. You see right now they're trying to run around like headless chicken, trying to remember who their voters are or remember the public. But some of they failed for the years, the 6 years President Museveni, or the 5 years he has been in power since 2016 and years back. They tried to detach themselves from the common man and come back running towards the next election. And it is affecting them. And before, they've kept doing it now and then, now and again, and they've lost credibility to an extent that they cannot believe them. No one can believe them. I think the minister, what she needs to do, she needs to, if I'm giving an advice, she needs to sit down with the student's body and try to understand. She's not listening. Because you're using a lot of force, taking the police, taking the army.
The minister said, and I quote, from the Bible, she said, she also quoted the Bible. That's Romans 13, 1-5. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities exist, have been established by God.
That current authority has not been
but
by anyone.
God has nothing to do. God has never allowed anywhere to exploit the poor. In fact, if you read the Bible very well, God stood with the poor.
And you and students.
God stood with the disadvantaged. She's quoting the Bible, and it is really, really absurd. People like her misusing the Bible or quoting what suits them, because she's completely wrong. They people, if I'm going to quote the Bible, look at the children of Israel. The children of Israel were captives. And God, it was with God, the power of God, that they were able to flee themselves from Pharaoh and the Israelites. I'm forgetting how they're called. So the Bible, the same Bible she's using, we can use it to quote that the children of Makerere, the students of Makerere University, they are fleeing themselves. They are doing everything they have in their power. If you look at the children of Israel, they did everything, God did everything in their power to flee these children of Israel.
I want to bring in Professor Sako.
Yeah.
They don't respect what God has put in place because they believe they have too much power as students.
You see, this is the kind of inanity that I talk about. People who just parrot verses from the Bible without really digging deeper. When you look at the Bible, and from maybe a perspective of the liberation theology, people always say that when somebody slaps you on the one cheek, turn the other cheek. And they say the Bible is actually advocating for abuse and advancing tolerance of human rights abuse. That's not what it is. Actually, what the Bible says in that verse, the only person I know who actually pushed it to almost the very end, there are two people I can think of practically. I can think of Wangari Maathai, and I can think of Stella Nyanzi. Right. So the Bible is saying that when somebody takes away all your rights from you, you can even strip naked, which Wangari Maathai did to Arap Moi when he was taking away all the lands, cutting down the trees, and what Stella Nyanzi did in court when all her rights were going away. So these people who are behaving in a very, very radical, not radical, but very surface, superficial understanding of the Bible. Of the Bible. They are trying to use certain verses. If we were to discuss this, I can come back here with my Bible, and we can explore verses by verse, where it clearly tells you what you should do with such autocratic regimes. For example, if Janet Museveni fully believes this, okay, why didn't she tell her husband not to fight the Obote government and the Amini government and just to sit back and say, well, God has endowed us with these dictatorships, let's sit back and enjoy them.
Yes.
All right, guys, so I want to take you out of Makerere University. It's a very strong discussion that we can take forever, because, you know, our brothers, our sisters, and stuff like parents are still going back into the same university. But let's go now deep into the real politics and leave the education part alone. Yeah. People power. You know why I've started with the people power? It's because of the beret you have. Yes. And I like how you guys are doing this stuff, but sometimes I also hate it. So let's look into the current strategy of President Museveni. Most of the people that Ugandans expected would support you are now turning against you. And I'd like to give an example of this lady, Jennifer Nankumbi, Jennifer Full figure. Yeah. Then I bring in Eddie Kenzo, who is a musician, who was also strong into the people power then, and the other socialites.
Yes.
These are people who expected to support the young cause or the people power movement. Now the president is receiving them, and you guys are complaining for what is happening. Don't they have a right to be in those political parties, probably any area?
I want to start. When it comes, and you're going to give me a minute to break down these few people.
I'm giving 1 minute, and then I'll go to...
You know, I've done a number of posts on whatever is happening right now, but I refuse to give any attention to Full Figure. You know why? She's, and I took time to find out what position, what task has she been given. I was informed exactly what she has been doing on this other side is what she's going to be. First of all, Full Figure would not survive. Full Figure in people power in the beginning, she made sense by, she was attacking people on the other side who are doing wrong. But one of the things that I didn't like, and I spoke to, in fact one time I had a chat with Bobby Wine, the obscenity that was coming out of her. And I said, we cannot sell people power using obscenity, or we cannot sell this cause using obscenity. And one of the things I got, because everyone analyzed it in a different way, people said, you know, she's as useful as the time expires. So, and then we moved to people power, to Full Figure campaign. She was not given a place in people power, or she was not made a coordinator or anything. Bobby Wine is not stupid. Bobby Wine is not stupid. You, exactly, because Full Figure wanted to be a coordinator. And one of the things with her, she would, and I said before, she would have made a good mobilizer but not a coordinator. Because a coordinator, there's a lot that you have to do for you to handle A, B, C, and D. The problem Full Figure is going to face right now, Full Figure goes on record. She's been attacking this regime and saying so A, B, C, and D. And now she's all of a sudden speaking another language.
She's a
I'm telling you, from the information I have,
that's an example.
From the information I have, yesterday, Full Figure, I know the media has not put it out. Full Figure was attacked yesterday.
Yeah,
downtown Kampala, she was beaten. And I'm going to go on record. Full Figure, before 2021, there are two things that might happen to her. She will either be beaten or she's going to be murdered. I'm telling you this. One of the roles that has been given Full Figure, from what I have, is to attack the mafias of government. She's going to do the same, just like she's been in people power attacking people on the other side. One of the roles I'm told she's been given is to stand on this other side. If there is a mafia or a minister or any other person doing wrong, she's going to speak up to them. These mafias are not going to spare Full Figure. I don't want to even waste time with her. These mafias, she's been put in a very difficult position. I know she was given a can 200 million. She's been put in a very difficult position. But as Full Figure and who she is, definitely she thinks she has the energy and the zeal to stand up and attack people on their side. She's been put in a trap, of which the same people she's been told to attack, they're going to finish her.
All right, so
they're going to finish her. Let me go to a little bit to Eddie Kenzo. It is so sad. I've written so many things about Eddie Kenzo. It is so sad. What is hurting me really is not Eddie Kenzo meeting President Museveni. Eddie Kenzo, one of the biggest mistakes he did was to show his emotions and vulnerability to the public. When you're a public figure, there are things. For example, wait and cry when someone has died. On a funeral, people will understand someone has died. Eddie Kenzo showed his weakest side. And what is happening right now, the movement is playing on the weakest side of Eddie Kenzo. They never knew exactly who is Eddie Kenzo. It is like Bobby Wine coming out and crying out publicly. Because before I know what is your biggest weakness, it is hard for me to know how exactly I'm going to attack you. But if I may say, I've had people, and I've had a number of attacks people saying, oh, you're attacking Eddie Kenzo because he met the president. I do not have any problem with Eddie Kenzo meeting the president. But I'm going to quote Eddie Kenzo. Eddie Kenzo said he's not a politician, but he's a leader. Now, the mistake Eddie Kenzo did as a leader, when you are a leader and you meet a politician, you speak of the things that are hurting your people as a leader.
Exactly. That's why.
What Eddie Kenzo did wrong, for me, the only problem I have with him, he himself, I don't know whether he has gone back to read and understand who is a leader and what does a leader do. So Eddie Kenzo, when he met a politician, he would have demanded the things that people he leads really need most, and that is the oppressed. Eddie Kenzo would have talked about the poor service delivery. He would have talked about the bad condition of hospitals in Uganda. He would have talked about the biggest levels of unemployment. He comes from the street. He knows most of the, and let me finish up. He knows most of his fellow brothers and sisters are jobless. He would have talked about the key things that are hurting Museveni. Eddie Kenzo, when he met a politician, he asked for money to enhance his musical career, so that he gains more fame and gets more stardom. Eddie Kenzo, who has put Eddie Kenzo where he is right now? The people. Eddie Kenzo, listen, if Eddie Kenzo had gone to president in that press conference, I don't know who briefed Eddie Kenzo. If Eddie Kenzo had come and said, even if he was told to say something, he had come and said, this is what I told the president. I went to the president and I told him, Mr. President, Ugandans don't have jobs. There is the poor state of hospitals, the poor state of service delivery. We would have understood. Eddie Kenzo in that press conference, because I was really waiting for it. I woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning to listen to what Eddie Kenzo has to say. Eddie Kenzo, on top of, he said that he talked about himself. A leader, you go to a politician and you demand for money to shoot videos. That was really, and who has put, and I was going back, who has put Eddie Kenzo where he is right now? It is the poor Ugandans who are oppressed that have made Eddie Kenzo who he is right now. Ugandan musicians need to understand that without the people who save, I know there are people who save 1,000, 2,000 and collect this money so that they come and attend their show. Eddie Kenzo did not disappoint Bobby Wine. Eddie Kenzo disappointed the people who have been following him, his fans, who sleep without a meal, because he had a golden opportunity to sit with President Museveni and tell him, President Museveni, I am here, but this is what is hurting my people as a leader. He went to President Museveni to talk about him shooting music videos. Let me finish up with this. I'm picking out the key most important things in his press conference. He talks about security. Eddie Kenzo told President in his press conference, he said, you people don't know what we're talking about. Uganda is one of the most secure countries. I've traveled all over the world. Uganda is one of the most secure countries. And then the biggest blunder, Eddie Kenzo hire a PR. Hire a PR, you need a PR. The biggest blunder, let me finish up. The biggest blunder was, he said, I need security because I'm not safe. So why is Eddie Kenzo asking for security when Uganda has the best security? Is one of the countries that is most secure in the whole world. So those are the mistakes. And I'm telling you, if I was him, he did not, because the more he talks, the more he shows how stupid and the small bits of rams that his brains carry. Let me finish up. And this is going to affect Eddie Kenzo's career as a musician, because Eddie Kenzo, let me tell you one thing. One of the things people forget, whether you're a musician or what, you at one point in time need to stand with the oppressed. Eddie Kenzo had a golden opportunity to even tell President Museveni one thing. President Museveni, my history, I grew up from the ghetto. But the people of Uganda have helped me rise up to where I am right now. The people of Uganda, through my shows, through my music, they've helped me rise up to where I am right now. President Museveni, Ugandans are unemployed. My brothers and sisters like me, why didn't Eddie Kenzo at least speak of the ghetto speak of the street kids? He's a former street kid. Why didn't he tell President Museveni the plight of street kids in Kampala, since he comes from there?
Sure. Why did he say that? I'm yet to find out. But Professor Jokan again, you guys in your position, you don't have the money. Because my observation, based on the stories that we've been following up from both insiders and outsiders, they said they go to meet President Museveni to collect more money, go and do services elsewhere. He was a very darling to people power. Many other guys, the full figures and the rest, we are very darling to people power. You don't have money to offer these people so that they can continue supporting you.
You see, there are people who go out there and they think that this is about making money. We are here on an ideological front, which is ensuring that democratic governance, that we have a democratic dispensation in the country. Those who want to make money, and that is their primary purpose, I want to tell them straight up front, there is no money in people power. We are not here to bribe anyone. But let me warn people who are running after these little bitter pills that Museveni is giving them, that they are going to choke on it. If they doubt me, they should look at an old man called Kajura from Bunyoro. His property is being auctioned because Museveni lured him away from standing for the values that he had stood for a very long time. Now Museveni sees he can't use him anymore. He has moved away from him. He is buying the likes of full figure. So if Museveni can drop Kajura, how about you, Jennifer? Okay. How about you, Busherman? How about you, Eddie Kenzo? We are not bitter with anyone because they meet President Museveni. Okay. That's okay. People have a right to associate wherever they want. But the purpose, the intent, and the impact that brings to the country is what we are concerned about. If you are going to be bribed by 200 million and a car and they say, I have changed what I have vehemently advocated for the last 2 years, there is something really amiss with you. And we as people in the democratic movement in Uganda, we want everyone to be with us. We need to unite together and put this to an end. Because if we do not work hard as a people united together to take these momentary joys out of our politics, we are going to be in major trouble down the road. The country needs us to be committed. So am I feeling bitter that people like Eddie Kenzo, because I feel really sorry for Eddie Kenzo as a person, because I believe there was so much pressure. Because when he comes back to speak to the press, you see how half committed, uncommitted is his statement. Okay, when you look at Jennifer or full figure, whatever she says, that is her. Okay, she's a hired mouth, and she's going to do what she's doing. So let me say one thing about people who think that this is a deadly blow. You see, the wind is blowing, and I can promise you the chaff is going to be blown away, but the seeds will stay on the winnowing tray. And those seeds, in people power, in the democratic opposition, will germinate into a stronger force. And whatever it takes, we are going to do it, and we will change Uganda. Some of us have stayed in this position. I've been in exile for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah, that's the question I was going to ask.
And I am committed to this. Don't say that there were no money offers. Okay, these nasty things that are being said about people, being threatened by their names, calling us. For some time they said I was gay. And I have no problem with the gay people. Okay, they have a life lifestyle, if I can say lifestyle, which I don't think it is also. It's their way of living, okay? What's wrong with that? So they try to malign us in so many ways so that we worry about this, okay? I'm so comfortable with who I am in people power. I'm a member of the Democratic Party, and I will stand there and advance these beliefs towards the end until we will achieve it. And when you see how the door on the power of Museveni is creaking, it's going to get unhinged. I promise you that.
All right, so I want to bring in Denise. Denise, the politics is now changing, and especially you who is going to stand in the coming 2021 general elections as a member of parliament. You are in the United States. You see how money is flowing nowadays. The government is putting in money out there to the people. You are a member of FDC, at least, and you are also a strong supporter of the people power movement, if I do understand. Now, what does that tell you? First of all, people power doesn't have money. FDC doesn't offer money. The government offers billions and billions of money to these individuals. And I'm pretty much sure some of your competitors will also be part of this move. Do you think that is taking the country forward or is taking it backwards?
We from the FDC wing, we always say that Museveni is nearing his last days. It is evident. It's on plain paper, you can see. If you are a whole head of state who disagreed with what the ghetto people say, who abused the ghettos, okay, through Bobby Wine, of course, he was abusing the people from the ghetto. And at the same time, you turn back to nominate or to choose person hailing from the ghetto to represent you at the ghetto. It means you are failing. There is something wrong. You are either confused or the people who are advising you are the opposition from within helping us. Because it has showed the whole world that now he has lost a little bit of his mind. Because he's going to shoot his...
You are talking about, I think I know him by his stage name, Butcherman, being selected as a presidential advisor for the ghetto issues. Are you trying to say that Butcherman is not fit for the position?
That is where I'm coming from. Everyone is fit for their position depending on what they're chosen to do. Okay? But as you see Butcherman is working for his survival. I want to thank the president for giving Butcherman survival, but not to represent him. Because I do not believe he has the moral authority to represent in that format. You see, when you start fighting people like the Bobby Wines, the opposition, you're talking nonsense, blah, 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 outside there. Though it benefits you, know that so many people are suffering. The people who are on the negative side are so many compared to you guys who are on the positive side. When you see people like Eddie Kenzo at last going to shake Museveni's hand and receiving that money, let me say this.
And I am not happy. First of all, he was happy. I want him to pass. I
want to finish. Let me tell you, I still believe that Eddie Kenzo is not at his full right sense of understanding. There must be something wrong. First of all, I blamed his handlers, the managers. Okay? The way Eddie Kenzo was on air, on social media, speaking things that is not, or that things that are not supposed to be spoken by him during that frustrated moment he was, his manager should have stepped up and said, no, fast forward your phone, like keep your phone somewhere. Okay? Then after that, you arrange to meet the president. Meeting the president is okay. Of course, he's an achiever in our country. He pays, I don't know if he pays taxes to these events. Like if you win money, like here, you can't just perform and fail to pay taxes. I don't know if he does that. Of course, that means about contributing to our GDP, which is fine. But meeting the president that you have been castigating for a long, long period of time with very tough words, it makes me think that something is wrong with Eddie Kenzo. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But let me add something here. One, Museveni is being successful in one aspect. That he's managed to divert us from addressing fundamental issues, and we are focusing our conversations around these individuals, the music performers, the what have you. The fundamental question is whether, by appointing Eddie Kenzo, has Museveni, by appointing Butcherman and Jennifer Nalubowa, is that her name? Full figure. Has he solved the problems of the country?
Definitely.
Okay? So we should not be talking about these individuals. We should be looking at the policy level.
I think
how does that resolve our problems?
The reason...
Because the ghetto, one second, the ghetto that we're talking about is not only Kamocha. The ghetto is not only the car parker area where Jennifer operates and the drama theaters. The ghetto runs from Dodothi to Kisoro, from Arua to Busia. All those areas are people suffering, not able to access healthy situations. There is a hospital, okay, that needs $175 million to be renovated in Bugembe. Museveni gets $200 million and he gives it to an individual, and that's where our mind is being directed. What I want to tell the people out there is that Museveni is not a complete idiot.
Yes.
This is the one unfortunate thing, that he is a very crafty, smart dictator. I give him that. So what he's doing right now is managing the conflict. If you want, you can go and read the A.A. Schneider's, the semi-sovereign people. He's making us semi-sovereign because we are not deciding even what story to tell about ourselves. Museveni is giving us the story. Today he appoints this, the next day he does that, and we are totally diverted from the things that are happening. We are now talking about full figure. We have uranium mines being donated in Inouye County to Russia and in Tororo to China, and we can't talk about that.
Exactly.
So the president has outsmarted you, the opposition,
no,
and you're trying to make even the media.
It is not outsmarted.
It is not.
Is as much as, you know, not everyone is as stupid as he thinks. But I'm going to say one thing. I'm so, of all things President Museveni has done, I'm so proud of him giving Buchaman a position. Buchaman needed money. Buchaman was a poor guy. Buchaman needed an elevation. In fact, that appointment, that appointment is not going to add any votes on Museveni, but it is going to elevate Buchaman from poverty to a better place. And for that, President Museveni, kudos. Thank you for giving Buchaman a position that is going to elevate him. Buchaman, collect that money, buy a car, you need it, buy a house, you need it. Buchaman, it is okay. Full Figure has been also in the same position. Full Figure didn't have money. The only problem with Full Figure, they've put him in a position where the people she's going to go for, they're going to kill her sooner or later. They've put her in the wrong position. The only person who was played, the only person who did not think twice of what he has done is Eddie Kenzo.
But
let me finish.
I want to leave that.
Eddie Kenzo is an international star who did not need any handouts. And that's why, by the way, when I've been following the things he's been saying, even after that press conference, he's caught between the land and the hard rock. Eddie Kenzo, really, you can tell if you did behavior change. Eddie Kenzo was told what to say, but he does not want to say whatever he was told to say.
He was so miserable.
He was coached. The guy is suffering. If you speak on Eddie, if he can be honest with you and tell you what is going on in his mind right now, he's having a conflict with his heart and his spirit. They're fighting. Eddie Kenzo was put, and what happened is because they played with his vulnerability. They knew exactly. He's very emotional right now, and let's tap him at the point when he's emotional and play with him. And it is really hurting me because now Eddie Kenzo has been coming to the US and doing shows. Eddie Kenzo cannot perform in the US again. I'm telling you that. Eddie Kenzo cannot perform in the UK again. Eddie Kenzo cannot perform in any European country again. If I'm lying, let any promoter in the US stage Eddie Kenzo. They will see what is going to happen. Because Eddie Kenzo, and I'm really, really hurt because he's a good boy. And this has nothing with him supporting Bobby Wine or, you know. He's Eddie Kenzo in his own way as a leader from the way he understood it. He's one person at least who has always stood with the oppressed. Coming from where he's coming from, and his statements have always been good because Eddie Kenzo comes from that place. Eddie Kenzo was a street kid. I've seen people who have collected money from President.
Let me ask you this before we finish up. Is it bad for one to have an independent mind over the politics of Uganda, like he did?
Everyone can have an independent mind, but at the same time you should know. Just go and read the prominent authors. They will always tell you, at one point, people who succeed, people who are successful always stand with the oppressed. Eddie Kenzo is one of the street kids. And you have so many street kids in Uganda. He would have at least remembered his brothers and sisters. As much as, don't forget where you come from. Don't forget. And the thing that is making Bobby Wine who he is right now, why Bobby Wine is a darling, Bobby Wine has never forgotten the ghetto. Bobby Wine is the one, he created the word ghetto. Bobby Wine has put the ghetto where it is right now. Museveni is running crazy because of Bobby Wine. Bobby Wine never forgot the ghetto. He came out of it. He was elevated. Bobby Wine has lived by example. He's a boy who grew up in the ghetto. And I'm telling you, because what Museveni is doing right now is choosing people like Bobby Wine, but the concept he has failed to understand. He's choosing people like Butcherman just because he's running for anyone in the ghetto. The concept President Museveni has refused to understand. People don't love Bobby Wine just because he comes from the ghetto alone. Bobby Wine is a darling right now because he has managed to be an example of someone who starts humble, who grows up in a miserable state, and they elevate themselves minus any help from handlers, from government. Bobby Wine is a true example of what Ugandans should be looking at. Someone who grew up from the ghetto, who had nothing, and he has elevated himself. Bobby Wine did not get money to buy cars or buy land or buy house from Museveni. He worked himself to that stage. And that's why people admire him. People give him respect. The old, the young people in the ghetto, because he has lived the true example of how a human being, of how someone who struggles to be where they are is supposed to do. So now, going and throwing these sacks of money, because the challenge is doing right now. Today I've seen Sipapa in Nakasero market. I have seen there's another group also, Butcherman has been with Big Eye somewhere also giving money. How many Ugandans are they going to give money? We are almost 45 million Ugandans. Does Museveni have 45 million? Does he have money to give each and every Ugandan to buy their soul right now?
Let me zero this down. Museveni, we know from Museveni, he's putting in a lot of money to get voters. Probably because 2021 is just near the door. What are you guys in people power? Let me just bring it open. I'm not going to be specific.
Yeah.
What are you guys going to do? Now that you know the Museveni regime and the supporters are putting in money, what are you going to do different to bring in voters? Let me ask, Professor.
Specifically, it's messaging. Yeah. We are going to keep on getting the message there. Okay. One, the issue is not as much as winning an election against Museveni, because elections have been won against Museveni in the past. So what we really need to do is to make Ugandans own this up. That's why I actually want to tell the people in the diaspora that next weekend Bobby Wine is in Boston. So let them come, be there, let them fully participate and be involved and address these issues themselves. So how do we ensure that this kakiocracy, this regime of Museveni, which has been around, which has pillaged, raped, and robbed our country, is not going to be using our own resources? The money they are trying to use to give to you today is money that they are grabbing now from China, from Russia, in loans that your children are going to be paying in the future. This is the money he's giving out to Bobby Wine, to Butcherman and the others, and you are saying that Museveni is giving them his money. Museveni has no money. When he came to power, his entire wealth, okay, included a flying Phoenix bicycle and 9 cows. I know this. That's all he had. Okay, 9 cows which were actually inherited from someone. He had nothing. So all the wealth that you see around him is actually blood money that he has robbed from the country, money that they've robbed from Congo, which we now saying you're going to be paying $10 billion as a country, according to the Minister of Justice, who is actually Minister of Injustice, Kahinda Otafire. So these are things we must critically address. So we are going to move forward, give this message to the people, and say, hey, Ugandans, this is what we are dealing with. Our elections have been rigged in the last 7 elections. We must put this to an end. How that happens is going to be the dramatic movement that is going to change Uganda and move it to the next location.
All right. So, Dennis, I want to bring you in. How are the people that you say, especially you guys when the opposition want to, bring towards your side, how will they support you if everybody who somehow slightly disagrees with you becomes straight away an enemy? I'll give you an example of the full figures, the Eddie Kenzos and the rest. Just saying a statement, that one is already an enemy to the opposition. How are you guys going to change that in the coming days?
I have to let you know that full figure was in people power, not because she wanted this regime to
I
go
use
down.
that as an example, yes.
Yes, I'm just trying to let you know that she's a confused agent that does not know which direction to take. Because from that point, there are so many friends of mine who are even abroad here, whom after Bobby Wine came up with a list of the coordinators were so frustrated. They didn't want to hear anything Bobby Wine again. I wrote to them, I phoned them myself and told them, you know what, if you are in for the struggle, you should not fight for the position. For us in FDC, we are very organized. Those positions are there and they are taken as they come. If you've not been chosen to lead, there will be a time when you will be chosen for something else. Those were just few positions on the table. Not everyone would be able to take them. But Full Figure, as being part of that, decided to turn against the team that she was going with. So that tells me that she was not there for purposes of change. Secondly, I want us to understand that the opposition should stand as one. The thing of bickering will make Museveni hit us hands down.
No, I'm glad. Yeah. Let me just pause you. I'm glad. You come from FDC, he comes from Democratic Party. We have a people power stronghold. Activist. Now, FDC and people power, in many cases, they don't match. In many cases.
They are not matching on social media, not on the ground.
Because social media is used by people, so how are you going to convince Ugandans that these organizations
let's agree on some of these things, okay?
Right.
One, I want us to clearly understand one thing, that they are agents of the government, okay? For instance, I know of about 3 accounts online which are owned. One is actually owned by a guy who is based in Minnesota, who claims to be a woman, but she's always, on those 3 accounts, on one account, she's a DP, on the other account, she's FDC, but on her official account, she's NRM. So she goes on around attacking people just to confuse us. So we need to be aware of that. And I think we need to understand that Uganda is quite large. It's a country, whether straight, gay, pagan, Christian, Muslim, you are from Dodotho or Kisolo, you are from Buganda, you are from Karamoja, you can fit in. And that is the movement we are trying to build in the opposition. A single force with the sole interest, which is to bring Uganda forward. I'm a DP, okay? The other guy was with KB. And I talk to KB, I talk to Muntu, okay? I'm with Bobby Wine, comfortably. Okay. At that level, we are understanding each other. There might be issues of how to operate, and those are issues we are working on.
Which are very sensitive, because that will put the country at risk in case this government is overthrown or changes.
David, I want to finish something.
Today, why are you going to convince Ugandans that you will be organized tomorrow?
No, I'm not convincing Ugandans we are going to be organized tomorrow. What actually we are trying to, people must understand and see, is that we are not as disagreed as some of the social media confusing agents are trying to portray us to be. We are not. I'm here with Eliao, he's from FDC. But we are all talking people power. And when we say people power, we mean Ugandans. The force of Ugandans to come together and own their country and take it back from the dictatorship. We have been portrayed by the government because it controls most of the media. It intimidates the media and tries to confuse people and call people names. I was discussing with someone before I came on air. They are calling people radicals. What is wrong with being a radical? If you know English and you are very comfortable, you will understand that a radical is someone who addresses the core issues thoroughly well, seeking a solution. That's what a radical is. Turn your dictionary on, go to Google, you find the meaning. And Museveni is misleading us and exaggerating these things that the opposition cannot be together because he owns the main media, and then he brings in money, buys 2-3 people to make it look as if the whole opposition is falling apart.
Right.
David, I want you to give me like 2 minutes to summarize this,
right,
because this is really very important in terms of unity and the forces coming forward.
Yeah, because you guys are disseminated.
Yes, this is not my first time of going into a political,
Debate like that?
Yes, and it's not my first time to go to be elected. But though I didn't make it, it's my second time to run for this office. So it's very important to unite. Unity is one of the factors that make everything go smooth. And let me tell you, as FDC, we already have structures on ground. People power should have had very big structure by now. But Museveni played a trick and made sure Bobby Wine does not perform in all those districts. Those 300 and something concerts that were cancelled, if those went through, by now Bobby Wine would have had a very big following down home in the villages. By the way, in the villages, things are tough. So that tells me that we need to work together. DP, FDC, PP, whatever political party that exists. We have good NRMs with us, good NRMs working for us. Okay. Let me tell you, in my constituency, I have a team, and in that team, there are so many NRM people that are so annoyed. They don't want to see this kind of nonsense happening. But because they cannot shoot their heads up, they try to go underground. They are working for me perfectly, not just to defame me or do something bad. These are real people that need change. So what do we need to do going forward? Let's emphasize on unity. Let's work together as one. There are people on social media, because on social media, everyone reads. Most people now have smartphones. These people, their main work is to make sure that they defame the person of Besigye so much that Besigye is with Museveni on the round table. Okay? So if they say that, maybe another camp can get a mileage out of that. I say no. What do we need to do? We need to sit down as a team. I know Besigye and Bobby Wine are sitting down. They are discussing way forward. Now, if for us in the social media, we are fighting with each other and those people unite, where shall we be? So we should emulate what they are doing. Let's tone down the way we speak. Let's tone down the way we castigate our friends as we see things going forward. Because I know there are challenges that won't end, of course. There are bickerings that won't end, of course, but we have to work hard to make sure that we reduce it to at least 50%.
Let me give you a second, then I will come to Sarah.
You see, we have to understand one thing, that this idea of Museveni being in power for 35 years has actually hurt Ugandans. People think that when you are in the same group, you have to breed like a sheep, that you are on an animal farm. There can't be any form of disagreement. No, we can disagree on a few things and move together and have change done in our country. You asked a very major question. Are there people in NRM? Yes, I have been in your position, and I talk to many people in NRM. Actually, what I want to appeal to the opposition is for them to understand that there are people who are fresh comers from NRM. Please hug them. Welcome them for having crossed that dangerous bridge.
Yeah, but just as you're saying, the contrary happens, because many people who actually in NM would like to join People Power FDC are chased away by
that is a
the
lie.
So-called radicals.
No,
I think there are people
lie.
that are planted to come and spy on us. Those ones
you have, I'll just give you an example. The former RSS of Kampala, she used to be very vocal. That is Aisha Kabanda. Aisha Kabanda is with Bobby Wine. I think she's standing. She's been mobilizing and working so hard. She's with Bobby Wine. I know so many people, having got involved with People Power, I know so many people who are working under the ground. They are NRM, but they don't want to put their heads out because of what might happen to them.
Sure.
But at the same time, you said earlier, you talked about NRM using money. This is not the first time NRM has used money.
And it has won.
All elections, NRM.
And it has won.
No, but it has been
it has rigged.
It
has rigged. That's the right language to put it.
NRM has been using money, time memorial, for all campaigns, all the elections. If you know, after the last campaign, we went into a very bad inflation because literally they had drained the national coffers. You already didn't have money. The shilling lost value. And we didn't have money. So this is not the first time. But I'm going to take you back to some of the mistakes Museveni is doing, because he's jumping in bed with anyone who he thinks might add a vote or might frustrate Bobby Wine. I saw an interview by Salim Uhuru. This is the NRM chairman, Kampala. And these are the same people who have used their own money to campaign. These guys have used the money from their own pocket. They've not even, some of the times they've gotten money from government, but they've used their own money. His frustration was, they've been campaigning and they've done a lot of work for NRM and used their own money. But at this point in time, Museveni comes to Katwe, and the chairman of NRM didn't know. He was also shocked to see it on the news. Because, and that's the thing he's using. Museveni has the tendency of disposing of. He uses you, gets whatever he wants and disposes you. So the team right now, the team is having right now, and I keep telling people, whoever I speak to, the biggest challenge Museveni is facing right now, he has failed to understand who is Bobi Wine. He's jumping at any opportunity. In fact, if tomorrow I can be able to tell President Museveni, I know who Bobi Wine is, I'm going to be paid. He has failed to understand who is Bobi Wine. Why does he have all this popularity? Why do people love him? But the problem is one. And I'm encouraging Ugandans, all the Ugandans out there, if you get the money, it is first of all, it is your taxpayers' money. But at the same thing you must understand is the biggest issue, money should not stop you from doing what is right. Because as we go into 2021 and getting into 2022, you will still have the same service delivery, you will still have no medication in hospitals, you will be still having the same problems. If you are allowed to be bought by money, you're still going to be frustrated, you'll still be unemployed. Museveni, after 2021, life will go back to normal. Well, he will, amass more wealth, he will be happy as Ugandans continue to be poor. So it is entirely, and I'm going to finish up by saying, whoever thinks this struggle is about Bobi Wine, you're not helping Bobi Wine. Whoever is moving away from people power and joining NRM, you're not hurting Bobi Wine. The problems of Uganda are bigger than Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine as an individual, he was living a comfortable life. Bobi Wine's children are not out of school. Bobi Wine is not ready. Bobi Wine sits on over 10 acres of land of Makerere. He bought with his own money. Bobi Wine was living a comfortable life. So if you think by you crossing over, you're hurting Bobi Wine. If you think by you, supporting himself and you're hurting Bobi Wine. No. Bobi Wine can still be able to access proper medication. If one of each child fell sick and needed medication abroad, Bobi Wine can be able, on his own funds, take his child abroad for treatment. But you, as a Ugandan who is selling your soul for just a few shillings, if your child, if your mother, if anyone is sick, are you able to access that medication? If the answer is no, and you're not going to blame this on Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine is not responsible for the poor service delivery in Uganda, or neither is he responsible for giving you better services in Uganda right now. You need to blame that on President Museveni, and if he's not giving you that, and you're selling your soul, it is entirely up to you.
The producers are my name.
David,
so David.
There is this final thing that I want to say that we must focus on very importantly.
Right.
The opposition teams in Uganda should make sure that they reorganize the issue of representation in parliament. How do we expect to have a larger opposition members in parliament next election if we are not working together? One, the reason I want many people to go into parliament is so that we can outcompete the NRMs that are inside. If anything comes out, we can veto it and beat them hands down. What should we do? By now we should have known that in any county that exists in Uganda, how many opposition aspirants are there and who should we base our trust on? That is what they should have had already by now. Because in March, the NRM is going to have their primary election, while the oppositions will have theirs in June, 3 months ahead from that. So these leaders should help and sit down. If they cannot agree as who is going to be the president, at least they should agree on who is going to be the aspirant of county A, B, C, D up to the last time. That is when we shall only beat.
As you're finishing up, you are standing in for
Kalaki County.
It's
now a district.
How far is Kalaki from Kampala?
It's about 250 kilometers.
250 kilometers. Professor Seko, I want you to also bring in your final submission. There is an ongoing narrative that somebody is shaking the mango tree. Do you know about the mango tree?
Well, if Bobi Wine is shaking the mango tree and the butcherman is picking the fruits, I'm comfortable with that. Let the boys also and the girls enjoy some of these fall-offs from the mango tree. But for me, if the mango tree actually means Museveni, my ultimate goal is to have the mango tree uprooted. And my final call is to so that we can all have access to harvest without waiting for somebody to shake the mango tree for us.
Right.
Okay. So Bobby Wine, as she said,
and just as you're going on, we expect Bobby Wine to be in USA.
Yeah.
Can you also put that forward?
That's what I want to actually conclude with. Bobby Wine is going to be in Boston, Massachusetts next weekend, the 9th. And if, on the 10th, for those of you who are in Toronto, we'll be together. And the following weekend, those are in Seattle and Los Angeles, we will be there with you. And we call upon you to come fully ready to participate, make your contribution in terms of idea and in terms of facilitating the movement to ensure that democratic governance takes root in Uganda.
I'm one individual who doesn't want to spend my money in going such town halls or meetings. Is it going to be a free event, especially for one of Boston?
I think all events.
Is it going to be a free event? Or
everyone is welcome to that event. It's basically free, but we are asking you to come ready to make a contribution. We don't want to keep any ideas, any values out. We actually inviting everyone, including members of the NRM.
We
want them to come.
As an FDC.
Yeah, we want them to come.
And I will contribute whatever is necessary. So that halls are rented as well.
So that we can they can hear from us, and if they have questions about where people power is going to take the country, we are willing to speak with them. We are not going to just talk about corruption as a word to intimidate people, the way they are now saying in regards to Makerere University. We are actually have the intention to stand our moral ground and address corruption as a disease that is impacting the entire fabric of our society, beginning from the president, who is actually robbing Peter to pay Butcherman, which is corruption in its fundamental form. Right. So these are things we want everybody to come, attend the meetings, and let us share together and move forward. We must liberate Uganda. This is an opportunity we have. Bobby Wine is a chance. He is out there giving us his hand to help us stand up. Because Bobby Wine, you see, I have known Bobby Wine since he was a nymph, since he was a little boy, okay? I never expected him to do what he's doing, okay? He lived a comfortable life. And here he is trying to help an entire country. Okay, Bob Wine, forget Robert Sentamucha, the person. Bob Wine is actually an idea. And this idea is going to deliver Uganda to its promised destination. And Uganda will again be the part of Africa. It will shine and grow and live in truth and justice as a united nation.
All right, Sarah.
I want to add on something. There's something small I want to emphasize about Bobby Wine's visit to USA. For everyone in the diaspora, please don't leave your home to come to the meeting when you've not carried 10, 20, 30, 100, 1,000, $10,000. Bobby Wine does not have money as an individual to run a campaign. The diaspora and Bobby Wine, Museveni is using taxpayers' money. It is us Ugandans that are going to contribute. If you're in the diaspora, I keep telling people, you cannot say, I'm in the diaspora, the issues of Uganda, I don't have anything to do with it. Unless you're not paying black tax. I've explained black tax is the people you left back home. Every time in the middle of the night you're sleeping, someone has died. Someone is going to marry. Basically, black tax, it affects all of us.
And whoever invented the wave.
Whoever, exactly. Basically, you pay for your brothers and sisters from the time they join school, they graduate, you continue to pay for them. They marry, you contribute. They have kids, you take kids to school. The kids also marry, you also take the kids to... The black tax does not stop. So if you are a Ugandan, Ugandans in the diaspora are as oppressed as those back home. The only difference is we have better service delivery. We get things better because we pay taxes and the governments here give us in return of what we pay for. But the oppression I'm talking of is we still suffer the consequences. We still suffer whatever we left back home. I never save any money, because every saving you have, people are, I don't know who tells them when you get money, 1,000 problems. I'm marrying, I am dead, I am resurrecting. All these problems are affecting us. And how are you going to abandon your people on the other side just because you live in the United States of America? So I'm begging everyone in USA, please, we need, Bobby Wine needs 100 million. That 100 million we are going to contribute. Whatever is, Bobby Wine, just like he said, is an idea. Bobby Wine is, basically, Bobby Wine is helping us uproot. I've been telling people that the mango is shaking right now. There is a python sitting up there. The mangoes are falling, the likes of Full Figure, the likes of Butcherman are picking. Please enjoy the mangoes. But we need that python that is up the mango tree to fall down. We are waiting to kill it. We are waiting for the python to come down. People are waiting with machetes. People are waiting with sticks. People are waiting with pangas. We need to uproot the python out of Uganda. You do not know what it means to pay. I've just taken someone out of university doing a degree in law. And right now, because she's going to be jobless, I've decided to take her back to do a master's. And after a master's, I have to pay for a PhD just because I don't want her to be redundant.
All right. Guys, I want to thank you. I want to thank the viewers who have been part of the show this entire time. Your ideas, the questions that we've been sending, the comments you've been sending, we've been receiving them. I always promise that I'll read at least 1 or 2 or 3 comments, but technically there are many, so I normally pick ideas from them and then I pose these questions to these people without mentioning names. But I really greatly appreciate each and every individual who has been watching, who has been sharing, who has been liking, who has commented, who is also trying to follow all our programs as Campfire Television. We are now the leading media house for Ugandans in the diaspora and of course Africans in the diaspora right now. So we appreciate it. It's you guys who have been watching our programs that have made us reach this far. Now, on every show I always leave with a closing argument. The politics is always there. That's the assessment I always start with. But it's your responsibility as an African, it's your responsibility as a Ugandan to have better leaders in your community. We as a media, we can play our role. But you as a voter, you as a son, as a daughter, as a sister to those politicians, you have the greatest responsibility to demand for your rights. I want to thank you so much. Guys, I want to thank you also so much for coming in. Dennis, I wish you well in your campaigns. I hope to have you again probably very soon.
Yeah, well, I'm ready.
Professor Sereko, before you go back to New York, I hope to have you again. And Sarah, I must have you again next So we want to thank you. And again, you guys who have advocated for Bobby Wine is coming. Next Saturday as Campfire Television, we are going to be live broadcasting the entire event. So we may not have Uganda at Crossroads live in our studios. We will be at the venue. So wait for the big stuff. We've just accessed new equipment, cameras, you know, the technical part is now well set. So don't forget, Saturday next week, 9th, we'll be live on Campfire TV and we'll be broadcasting the entire event. Now, coming up next,